Hello, how are you? Good, good. Of course, have a seat, please. Nicolasa. Here?
Gracias.
Yes. And then,
Alan.
Alan? Alan, do you want to sit in the big chair? Or you can sit in the little chair. Okay. Excellent. So just a very brief introduction. I'm going to sit close over here. Okay, cool. Excellent. Just a brief introduction to our guest today. Matt DeLeon, you graduated in what, 2015?
2016.
2016, I apologize. 2016 from SU and is currently working with the Eastern Farm Workers Association. What was your major again?
Philosophy.
Philosophy, sweet. Okay. Honestly, remembering things nowadays is a big win for me. Okay. We have Nicolasa and her son, Alan, from Guatemala, who's been in the U.S. for 3 to 4 months. And she'll talk a little bit about her experience and the way in which Matt and Dan have been advocating for her. Dan is a senior at ESF who is technically interpreting for Nicolasa, but I would also like to hear about his experience as a volunteer with EF as well, EFWA. So on that note, I'm going to let Matt introduce what EFWA is, why that's a specific necessity in this region as well, and also I'd like you to talk a little bit about, as an experience as an SU student, what brought you to this awareness. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll have you introduce yourself, and then I'll have Dan or you introduce Nicolasa, and we'll talk a little bit about media framing of stories like hers.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor Dupree, for giving us the opportunity to come and speak and spread the word here. So, as the professor said, my name is Matthew DeLeon. I'm the administrative assistant at the Eastern Farm Workers Association. Currently, I've been that way for a couple of years now. Right, it's Nicolasa and Dan here. EFWA, the Eastern Farm Workers Association, we're an all-volunteer run and non-government funded organizing drive of some of Central New York's lowest paid workers. We started in 1974 in Wayne County, which is about 2 counties west of Onondaga, as a small organizing drive of orchard crop workers out there. Now it's the 2nd largest apple producing county in the country. But over time, we've grown quite a bit bigger. We're now based in Syracuse. We cover 7-county area, which includes Onondaga, Wayne, Cayuga, Oswego, Madison, Portland, Tompkins counties. Now, is anybody here from any of those places? Show of hands. Okay. All right. Over time, we've expanded quite a bit above and beyond just reaching out to farm workers here in the area. A lot of our members now do other kinds of work, such as food service. People might work through temp agencies or day labor agencies, things like that. There's minimum wage, part-time jobs, things like that. And it's people from all different walks of life, but one of the main commonalities between all of these workers is, one, that they've got more bills than they do income, but additionally, most of these categories of workers are not covered by the federal labor laws in this country. So that's growing category of the workforce. Since 2008, 94% of all new jobs created would fall outside of the purview of the labor laws in this country. So you're talking contingent-based employment, a lot of you know, part-time jobs, things like that, what's now often called the gig economy, so a lot of independent contractors. And our goal is to really, you know, build a strong enough voice to really have the strength to start, you know, fighting a number of these government policies that are making it more difficult for working people to survive and really start to have a say over how these
Excellent, thank you. Could you elaborate a little on the way in which mass media presents these stories and how, so you are literally on the ground advocating for individuals. How does the presentation of their stories in mass media impact your ability to advocate, and how do you attempt to disrupt that?
So, great question. So, whenever you know, turn on the news or read the newspaper and things like that, it can be very easy to believe that everything is, you know, just going swell, that we're living in the best of all possible worlds, that you know, unemployment's going down, stock market's rising, things like that. But the reality is certainly a lot different. I mean, there was an article in the New York Times this past Sunday about the global economy and how it's changing right now. And it was great. Maybe halfway through it, it pointed out that even though the unemployment rate is now 3.7%, just around 2/3, you only have about 2/3 of the population that's actually working age people that are actually working right now, because so many people have stopped looking for work that you know, they're no longer, they're not counted in the unemployment statistics.
And I'll just interrupt and say that the gig economy allows that number to drop. That is to say that you would not be looking for work if you can upload a Lyft app and start driving. You would, that would keep you, you would not be seeking unemployment in that case, but you were definitely underemployed. And there's a lot of stories about Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, right? People that are trying to make ends meet through this gig economy and the flaws in that. So I just want to say that, you know, as we talk about digital media making more things available, it also impacts our larger numbers. Please continue. So how does that impact your advocacy?
Right, so the way that we're looking at it, right, what it's going to take to start turning things around and addressing a lot of these fundamental issues is, you know, organization. Is through people really being able to, you know, unite and have very you know, tangible strength in numbers to start enacting this change and really, you know, gaining a fundamental say over how basic life necessities are regulated and things like that. And you know, being able to really bring the reality to people above and beyond the way that it's represented in a lot of the mainstream media has been very important, which is one of the main reasons why we've chosen to produce our own newspaper there. But it's also a lot of just getting out directly and talking to people like, you know, we are now. But above and beyond just talking, really getting people involved in work as quickly as possible. And at the end of the presentation, I hope to let everybody know about some volunteer opportunities that we have coming up.
And for those of you who missed the newspaper on Thursday, there's still a stack in the back, so you feel free to grab one on your way out. So as we think through the story that is told about, somebody else looked up migrant and caravan. Who was that? Excellent, Kathleen. That, you know, this framing of the issue, migrant, I would actually appreciate if you go back, take a look and say migrant, refugee, and caravan, and see where refugee falls into that thing. Because we talked about the difference between a migrant and a refugee. And I believe Zoe put it I think it was Zoe, put it well with the sort of imminent danger argument. Was that you? Yeah. Imminent danger. Like you need to flee. You're not forced to flee. We could talk about forcing as, ethnic cleansing, like there's forced. But you need to flee in order to survive for your family and your children and yourself to hold on to life. So as we think about reframing this issue and telling those stories, I encourage you to think about what stories you're actually hearing about individuals coming north. What stories are being told, how are they being framed, in what outlets are they being framed one way and another way. I believe I heard recently talking about, whether or not there are Muslims in the caravan and how we should be scared about that. So again, thinking through how the story is framed. I would like to, Dan, whenever you're ready, I would like you to introduce or have Nicolasa introduce herself. And the question that I asked and I would like you to reflect on, would like her to reflect on is, why did you leave your country to come here? Why not a different country? What is your American dream and how would you like people to discuss your situation? We can start one at a time.
Primero que se presente. Sí, sí. Su nombre y después tiene preguntas.
Mine, I read it better than I speak it. My Spanish, I'm not secure.
Dice que puede leer. Anybody here speak Spanish? Only few of you guys? All right, if I mistranslate something too, like request entonces.
So why did you come here?
Pues su nombre y por qué vino usted.
Sí. Yo me llamo Nicolasa Francisco Esteban, mi hijo se llama Alan Antonio y yo tengo 3 meses de estar en este lugar.
She's been in this country for 3 months.
Me entré como emigrantes en la frontera de este lugar.
She came through the border as an immigrant, as a declared
Tengo 3 meses de estar aquí y ahorita gracias a Dios que estoy en una organización con ellos porque ellos están apoyando a los emigrantes y a los agricultores y etcétera, muchas cosas más, pero yo creo que esto
Se me va a olvidar, I'm going to forget. So she says she's been in Syracuse for 3 months, and dijo gracias a Dios.
Sí.
She said thank God that she found an organization like this one that organizes farm workers, but also farmers, as well as working lay people, in the city, and people who are out of work in the city, because como estaba diciendo.
Yo me...
Sorry. Wilson, what was your...
So
she came here?
why did she come here and why America specifically?
¿Por qué usted vino, sabe, aquí? ¿Por qué huyó? Y segundo, ¿por qué los Estados Unidos? ¿Y por qué no otro país?
Yo me vine en este lugar porque quiero vivir otros años más adelante.
She came here because she wants to live some years moving forward in her life, coming ahead, to make some progress for herself.
Y me preocupo por mis hijos. Tengo 4 hijos. Y tengo hijos adoptados que son huérfanos del padre y de madre. Y yo me hago responsables
She has a few
de ellos.
adopted children who are completely orphaned, and she takes responsibility and care for them on top of her own.
Y a pesar de eso, me entré en este lugar para defenderme la vida. Porque yo, la verdad, me estaban persiguiendo, me quieren matar, o sea que me mataron. Aquí traigo cicatrices de balas y ya no tengo mis intestinos cabales, pero gracias a Dios estoy viva.
So she said she came here because she fears for her children's lives. She fears for her own life, that she was being persecuted, she was being followed in Guatemala. She said they were going to kill me, and she said, no, actually they did kill me. Si quieres enseñarles las cicatrices otra vez que me dé,
Sí.
yeah, she says she carries some bullets. She's missing most of her intestines as well from a dispute. And that, you know, she carries those scars with her when she travels and as she travels here, and that she came here to be free of that sort of unnecessary violence that, you know, that her kids, that no one should be exposed to. But
Pues ahora me siento orgulloso estar en este lugar, porque siento que no estoy el 100%, estoy bien, pero por lo menos ya me siento libre. Si el presidente me van a dar una libertad de vivir en este lugar, porque allá en Guatemala hay muchas violencias, hay muchas corrupciones. Los empresarios, el presidente lo ponen más para arriba y los pobres más para abajo. Los pobres se meten en toda la vida, están debajo sus pies de los empresarios, de los ricos. Y no hay quien por los pobres, pero para los ricos, para los empresarios grandes, sí están apoyados. ¿Y por qué nosotros pobres no estamos apoyados por el presidente de Guatemala? Nos pase lo que nos pase y nadie nos defiende. Accidentes, violencias, secuestradores, corrupciones, discriminaciones.
so she's saying she's proud to be here. She's proud to have the opportunity, though she's not 100% safe and secure in her position, most people in her position are. She's proud to be here. And grateful to whatever extent the president or the powers that be are aware of it, that they're allowing her to be here. And she's thankful for that opportunity because she says, you know, real talk in Guatemala, the violence is much worse, that there's gangs and corruption and the president in Guatemala, and but not only the president, the large corporations, the bosses, the farm bosses, that those are the people who lift themselves up in Guatemala and here, while the working poor, the poor women, children, are pushed to the bottom, are pushed to the periphery. And she says in Guatemala there's nobody for the poor. Happens, you know, what happens to them will happen to them, be it kidnappings, be it rape, murder. And there's no one to stand up for the poor people in Guatemala. And she says also that that is, I mean, it's just an indignant, really. And that's why she came here, to be free of that, but not to forget that.
So then, if I can ask one question, and then we'll come back to the way in which EFWA connects these issues and attempts to present them and address them. But if you could ask her, how would she like people to discuss her situation? So what does she want Americans, people living in America, to understand that, okay, let me start over, because I'm not certain to what degree she's engaging with them. So what she would like them to know, and if possible, what she thinks are some misconceptions that are widespread.
Primero, quiere saber cómo usted quisiera que se representara la situación suya y más grande, ¿sabe? Los inmigrantes que vienen de la Latina. Y también, ¿cómo lo digo? Si para no solo la gente en este salón, pero los americanos generalmente, si hay algo que usted quiera que entiendan ellos, que quizás no hayan escuchado, ¿sabe? Sin hablar con alguien en su posición.
Pues la verdad, nosotros O sea que nosotros los guatemaltecos, tal vez no solo yo estoy luchando para entrar en este país, hay muchos. Hasta hay quienes nosotros venimos entregados con la migración por muchas necesidades y por situaciones graves que nos pase en nuestro país. Y hay quienes todavía que vienen en el camino. Hasta hay quienes que todavía vienen sufriendo. Ahorita, gracias a Dios, que el presidente de aquí ya está mejor. Pero anteriormente, que pasó el tiempo pasado, los niños separados en otro lado, los hijos allá y el papá o la mamá de allá. Esa es situación triste. En vez de que nosotros queremos salir adelante, los hijos para allá, saber si nos van a entregar. Pero ahorita, gracias a Dios, pero esperamos en Dios que sí, porque nosotros no venimos a hacerle daño en este lugar. Nosotros no venimos a matar, nosotros no venimos a discriminar, no, sino que nosotros venimos a luchar en los prósperos y en los adversos. Eso queremos hacer con nuestros hijos. En Guatemala es pobre porque el presidente no tiene apoyo, no nos apoya en ninguna parte, pero a los ricos. Por eso nosotros solo en este lugar venimos. No nos vamos en otro país, no nos vamos en otro lugar, sino que solo este lugar nosotros queremos alcanzar. ¿Por qué queremos alcanzar? Queremos hacer algo.
So she says that Guatemalans, and not just her, not just Guatemalans, but many Central Americans are coming here to improve their lives. And many people will come, arms in the air, entregado por la migra, she said. Instantly arrested by Migra, by ICE, Border Patrol, just for the chance to be here for long enough to get some sort of chance at asylum, some sort of chance at plea bargaining a case to be allowed to stay for any amount of time. And lucky the few that remain, get that asylum, especially these days, and that many are on the way, and that they're suffering. There's sickness and hunger on the long, long trail to actually get to the southern border in the first place. Usted dijo que entonces después de usted llegan a la frontera que no tienen permanencia.
Sí.
So, lo siento, que había mucho. That Guatemalans or migrants get here, what they want to do is to set up a life for themselves so that their children can go back to where they came from in Central and Latin America, to improve their lives there. Because people aren't coming here to cause violence. People aren't coming here to cause chaos. That's what they're running away from. They have no impulse to come here and cause any sort of trouble. Half of the people, her own family is not entirely here. And many people have families that are still where they left in the first place. That they stay in touch because this isn't it's not an invasion, like she said. They're not here to cause violence. They're just here to improve their situation immediately so that their children don't have to go through this kind of thing. And why are they poor? Why are Guatemalans poor? She says because the Guatemalan president is corrupt and doesn't support people. And plenty of people facing violence like Nicolasa faced we'll never get, you know, the time of day from Guatemalan politicians. So what else can they do? They don't come to any other country but this one, because where else can you walk to from Guatemala that is better? I mean,
And
that was more or less it, but that's why.
one of the questions that I had asked, and I'll just summarize this because I think it's evident, and I just want to draw your attention, is to think about the American dream, right? That is a phrase we use over and over again. I have my own issues with it, which I saved for 346 when you take that class. But nonetheless, this American dream is a long-standing phenomenon of the last 500 years, right? We talk about colonists. They came here specifically to escape the feudalism of Europe for a chance at a better life, right? When we talk about, so that's migration from effectively 1600 to 1800, when we talk about the migration, you know, the mass migration in the late 1800s, early 1900s through Ellis Island, again, fleeing the Irish potato famine, fleeing the lack of opportunities in the old world where class was so entrenched, and again, that working class was ignored by the upper class, right? Coming here, spending all your money to buy a ticket to come across the Atlantic Ocean, all for the opportunity for a better life. So I just want to make this point as we think about migrants versus refugees. I think that Nicolasa is demonstrating the merge between those things, that she's simultaneously escaping violence, corruption, human disregard at home, and at the same time coming for a better life here, which is by definition the American dream, that you can come here and the roads will be paved with gold, which I believe is what, go five, the little mouse? Anyway, right, the American West, I believe was the title of the movie. I feel like that's also wrong. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Five Goes West, thank you. It's a children's movie, right? That this idea of going west, that manifest destiny, moving across the country. If you just keep going, there will be a plot of land for you and your children, and maybe you'll hit oil or gold or something will really just be perfect. But nonetheless, all of that, in the past 500 years, we have been touting the rhetoric of the United States as a space for a better life. So why are we surprised when hundreds or thousands of people want that opportunity as well? So on that note, I'd like to come back to Matt just a minute, because there were some really great questions from the students, which I printed out and gave to you if there's any you particularly want to answer. But what is the population of Eastern Farm Workers Association, both the population of employees, like the people who are volunteering, the population of people who you are seeking to help, right? What is our kind of raw numbers? And also regarding English versus Spanish-speaking populations, because someone else mentioned how impressed they were that the whole newspaper was in parallel, right? That there is, every article is in English and Spanish. So if you could talk a little bit about the population of EFWA and how that demands a unique media representation to connect with them.
Absolutely. So EFWA, as said earlier, it's an organization of working people, and in this country, in this part of the country, there's a lot of diversity amongst working people here in the area. So we have members from various different countries. In addition to a large Spanish-speaking membership, we have a growing Arabic-speaking membership as well. For those of you that don't know, here in Syracuse, there's a very large refugee population of people coming from Iraq or Syria. There are also a lot of people moving here from Sudan and Somalia and places like that. So we have a growing membership of folks from those countries as well. Because I mean, historically, all the way down the line, it's primarily been, immigrants and refugees that are doing some of the, lowest paid jobs and working under the most difficult working conditions. Now that's not, like you hear it in this country a lot, the lion well, you know, we need to, we can't block off the borders because who else is going to do farm work, right? And it's often presented as some kind of, you know, innate nature that people from other countries are going to be doing farm work, but what it often comes down to is a lot of the desperation that people are coming from, and the need to work for whatever you know, wages and working conditions are offered, is really what's driving that. I mean, if farm work paid $20 an hour and you had you know, health benefits and you know, a pension plan or something like that, like you did with a union job or something, then you would see plenty of Americans doing the farm. So the idea is that we can't leave anybody behind. You got to start with the lowest paid workers, people who are working under these very difficult working conditions, of whatever background or walk of life. Uniting behind them other working people who you know, can only serve to benefit for conditions for people at the bottom improving, and you know, uniting behind them people, small business owners, various people in those categories. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think absolutely. As we think about simultaneously, so one of the other questions that a lot of students asked was how students can get involved, and I'm really excited to bring in Matt. He's come and spoken to another one of a couple other classes. Is what your power is, or excuse me, understanding your capacity as media producers, right? Absolutely, that you have time. That's our #1 volunteer. You have time, you can give it. But it's important to note that your capacities as understanding the way in which stories are told, understanding the impact of the stories, understanding hacking, to come back to a key term, hacking the media system in order to change the conversation. You have a unique skill set that is valuable to any group or movement that is of interest to you. More than just, you know, a node in a sharing in a social network. There's a little social network, you've seen them, right? More than just a node in a social network, you have a unique skill set. So on that note, I think you also brought, did you bring calendars? Right, so talking about the way in which old media still has a place, and then we'll call it a day. There were so many other questions, but I've given them all to you, so if you would like to respond to them, I will happily share that with other students. On that note, before you come to that, because we still have another minute, Dan, I would like you to talk about how you became involved, if you don't mind taking a minute, how you became involved in the group. Guys, don't pack up yet, please. How you became involved in the group, and what are you doing over at ESF, and how does this fit into your education, life, professional plan?
Sure. Well, actually, second time I spoke. So I started with the organization my sophomore year at ESF 2 years ago. They were tabling at the Gateway Cafe over at ESF. I liked what they had to say, so I signed on. I'm an environmental health major, so that has to do with the environment, how it affects our health, and how we affect the environment. And I mean, how this all kind of plays into that, I guess, would be, I mean, I had coffee this morning. I take cream in my coffee. I don't drink that much milk. I love cheese. I eat ice cream. You know, Nicolasa and other dairy workers are responsible for my being able to enjoy those products. Conversely, they suffer, you know, a myriad of health problems and very easily preventable diseases that they can get absolutely no treatment for fear of being arrested, much less not being able to pay. So for me, when I think about environmental health, and I think about the things I take from the environment, the people whose labor it takes to produce those products for me, and then their health. You know, to me, doing something like this only makes sense because people like Nicolasa, you know, don't have the sort of voice in this country that people like me are lucky enough to have. And I mean, it would be a little, in my opinion, hypocritical for me to spend all day at a very nice state university studying how trees affect this and, you know, soil quality, whatever, ESF stuff, without actually making it important to, you know, real living, breathing people. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about the environment, we're also talking about people. In all of the language that we ever use for the environment, we're always talking about people. Those ideas are really linked. So if there's a class of people living in the conditions that Nicolasa is living in, it doesn't say much good about the direction of humanity unless people are trying to do things to organize them and improve the situation. So in short, that would be my say.
On that note, it is technically 9:21, and they are free, but I will make a point to say that please grab a newspaper. I also invited Matt to bring calendars, and he also has a sign-up sheet. So if you're interested, sign up. If not, we will hold on to a sign-up sheet on Thursday, because I know a lot of you have other classes immediately. So you can come sign up on Thursday as well. The calendars, sharing some